Hi everyone, I'm Rosemary here again. Today we're going to be painting this believe sign. Okay, it's very pretty, cute piece. Lot of little detail, but it's done with either the back end of your brush or a toothpick, so it's really pretty simple. The first thing you have to do is, well, make sure that you have everything that you need in front of you. And you should have paper towels and a water bowl to clean your brush in between. And you don't need a palette. I do, because I work from these very large bottles, but you don't need a palette. You have the little pods to work from. And a covered table. Cover your table, because you don't want to get this on anything that can damage it. I mean, it's a water-based acrylic, but it's a little bit difficult to get out when it gets into clothes or on your tablecloth or something like that, or on your table. So I would suggest covering it, paper towels. I use these little pads that I get, so anything like that is fine. So I want you to use the dark gray as your base coat. I started and I did the back, but you don't have to. I did that just, so you don't have to watch me completely base coat this whole piece. I would start with the front. Make sure you have enough of that dark gray to do the front and the in-betweens. And then if you don't have enough of it, you can use the turquoise on the back, or you could use one of the other colors on the back that I gave you, okay? All right, so I'm going to continue to base coat this piece. And as I always say, you can pause the video. You don't have to watch me do this. You have a little smaller brush that I gave you, but you can do that. It'll just take a little bit longer, but it's fine. But if you have other brushes, you can use bigger brushes too. Just always make sure that you pull your color out. All right, you see how far my one brush load is going because I have a big brush, and wiggle into those crevices. We don't want to see any white spots, and the reason for this is it's very difficult to butt your colors right up against each other. I originally had tried doing this piece with each letter in an individual color, and you can try that, but then you don't have color on the in-between areas, and it's very hard to get in there to do another color. So I always suggest doing the whole thing one color first, and usually use a neutral color. You can start out with black, you can start out with a dark gray, a light gray. You could start out even with the teal and dry brush the gray over it. So you can start out with any deeper color, because that shows the depth in the crevices. And then put your other colors on top of it, like we're going to be doing here. So pull out your color. If your color stays wet for any length of time, you have it on too heavy and you're not pulling it out. Now, I know that from doing classes with children and teenagers and stuff, that you have a mind of your own and you're very creative, and it's great if you want to do different than I'm doing, but I just want to show you the technique, okay? And then you can do whatever you want. It's your piece, you're the artist, so you can do whatever colors you want on it. So again, I'm pulling out this color as far as it'll go. And it's almost, see, I just did that, and that's dry to the touch. So if you pull it out properly, it dries very fast. If your color stays wet for a long time, you know it's on too heavy and you didn't pull it out. And if you miss spots after we start dry brushing the color or pouncing, we're going to be pouncing the color on. If you see you've missed spots, you can always go back with a small brush and put the color back on those white spots even after. Okay. Wiggle in there, wiggle in those crevices. Nice and smooth. I always go back and make sure it's nice and smooth, and always turn it upside down too, because when you turn it upside down, you see all the spots that you missed that weren't visible from looking at it right side up. I might need the little brush to get into here, I'm not sure. Oh, I got in there. I think you're better off with the smaller brush. It'll just take a little bit longer, but it'll do the job. And I would use the flat one, this one, the square. They call it a square shader. It's just a little version of the one that I'm using. Almost done. So it's a good idea to do this ahead of time and then come back and watch the video so that you have some drying time in between. I'm not going to have that, because I'm just going to be, doing one thing right after the other because of the video. But you have time, you can let it dry and then go back to it. Okay, so I just have to do the top and then I'm done. See, the big brush is kind of hard to use. Look at all my little hairs sticking out. That's really abuse of the brush. So I think I would use a little smaller one when you have the time. You're better off. Okay, now I may not have had every spot covered, but I have enough of it that I can show you how to do the next step. So we're just going to let this dry just a little bit. And you can let yours dry for a while before you come back and do the dry brushing or the pouncing. Actually, we're going to be doing pouncing. So now, don't ever leave your brush sitting like this for any length of time with the paint in it, because it will abuse the hairs of the brush. So I would always swish it in the water and lay it across the top of the bowl and wash it with soap and water after. Never bang your brushes down in the bottom of the bowl. Okay, so now I'm going to start using the lighter gray. And you have that lighter gray. I have it in the big bottle here. And now again, you can use your flat brush. I'm going to be using a little bigger brush. I'll start out with this one so you see what I mean. You're going to put a little bit of the lighter gray in your brush, and you're going to wipe it and blend it into the hairs of the brush. And then we're going to be pouncing it on the letters. Okay? So you just tap it. Tap it, tap, 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 tap. Now the first coat is not going to look like anything. Second coat and third coat, you can do it as many times as you want, will look a lot better. Now you don't go into the crevices. You're doing this on just the raised areas. All right, each time I do it, I take a little bit out of the brush so that I don't have a lot in the brush. I'm going to have to turn it around so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so for time's sake, I'm just going to use my bigger brush, which is a pretty big brush. And I'm going to put it on with that. Now, if a little bit of the gray gets where the teal color is going to go, it's okay. It's okay. Eventually, we have to be neat with the teal. But with the lighter gray, you don't have to. Put some on the top. And when you do the teal, you'll be putting it on the sides. Okay, on either side. That's how I chose to do it. You want to change it, you can. Okay, so I'm going to do every other letter. So now I'm going to be doing the I. You see my first coat, how light it is? That's how you're better off doing that, nice and light, and you won't get it all over everything else either, like I did on this one. So I do one coat on each, then I'll go to the V, right, the V, and pounce it on. Put a little bit on the top. And now that dark gray that you used acts as an antiquing in between. See, it shows shadowing in between. It's going to separate your letters. It's going to stay in the crevices, and that will show all the depth. See in here? It shows the depth. It shows in the V, in the B. The B you can go into a little bit with the turquoise. You know, you can go in a little bit. But I forgot to do the top of the I. So I have those three letters done in the light gray. I'm going to go back now. I'm going to start all over again. Don't try to achieve the look that you want with one coat, because then that will mean that you're putting your color on way too heavy. So put it on a lot of coats. Now I want you to see this, the second coat, what a difference it makes. Okay, now that's the second coat. See the difference between the first coat and the second coat? Do all three letters again, and I didn't even have to reload my brush. Again, I see a white spot that I missed, and I'll just go back and do that. I'm going to do it one more time, and I'm going to start with my I because my I is lighter than the E. So I'll do the V and the I. Pounce, pounce. And if you notice, I don't even dip again, I dip once. Now, if you're doing this and your color starts to lift up, it means you're putting it on too wet. And just as like I have a little spot right here on the top of the V that's not covering, I'll let that dry for a while. Well, mine is covering now, but if you let it dry for a while, it will eventually cover. And now this kind of blends it too. If you keep going back and pouncing, it blends your color better. And get in here and do the top of the E. Okay, so I think that that's enough on there right now. Now, I'm going to go into the dark teal. These are Gare's paints. Gare party paints. They're water-based acrylics. You can use Mako, you can use Duncan, you can use Gare, which is what I use because they come in the big bottles and it's easier to fill all those pods that I do for you. You can also go to Michael's and buy some acrylic paints or wherever else you can find them. Same thing, water-based acrylics. Okay, so now I'm not even washing this brush. You can wash your brush, but I would suggest you don't wash your brush in between colors because once you have a wet brush, it doesn't pounce on as well. So because the gray is lighter, I'm going to go into the darker teal, and it turns teal immediately. The teal overpowers the gray. So I'm going to do that on my B. And see how I'm just pouncing, pounce, pounce, pounce. I've heard this being called years ago a hot griddle approach. Like if you went to touch a hot griddle, like, oh, you pulled your hand off. It's called a hot griddle approach. Now one coat, you see through that one coat, the difference in this one and this one. So I'm going to put it on the top. And when you put it on the top or on any of the areas, don't get right up against the gray. Leave the dark gray showing in the crevices between the light gray and the teal. Okay, and I have some on that side. So now I'll dip again a little bit. And we'll go to the eye. Now the eye, you're probably going to be better off with the smaller brush. I'll go back to the smaller brush that you have. And pounce that on there. This is where you have to be careful. And like I said, don't go right up against the E. Just gently tap your color. First coat's not going to look good. But once you get that first coat down, it's a lot easier to get the second coat on. Because then you have a guide. Okay, there's the L. Now I'm going to go to the E. I go back to my bigger brush with the E. This E. Now I kind of pounce it away from the letter that's next to it so that I don't go like this and hit it into the lighter gray. Put some on the top. And then I just have to do the last E. And do the top and do the sides. Now, if you want to do the bottom, you can also follow the colors around the bottom. And I kind of go in a little bit, but I let the dark gray show and give me the depth on the inside of the letters. So I go in just a little bit. All right, now I'm going to do a second coat of the teal. I'll start back here with the B. Go back to the top. Go back to the sides. See if I can do it with the big brush. The I is the hardest because it's so close to the E that's next to it. I mean the L, I'm sorry. And then I forgot to do the top before, so I'm going to put a little bit on the top. And again, don't pull it right up against the lighter gray. Leave the dark gray showing in the crevices to show your dimension, your depth. Okay. And I'm not even dipping again for more color. I'm just using what I have in my brush. I'll put a little bit more in for this E because this E is very light. And you can do as many coats as you want. I'm going to stop at 2 coats because you get the idea of what I'm doing. Now, if you wanted to, you can also go back with white, and you could tip. I didn't do it on this one, but you could tip the edges of the letters in the white. I'll try it so you can get another look. Okay, so I'm going to pick a little white up in my brush, which is, because I have the teal in the brush, I'm going to have a very light teal. And if you want, you could edge your letters. Okay, now you see what I did to that? I didn't do it on this one, but I did it on this one. So if you want, you can do that. Or do maybe just edge the teal color. You could do it on all of them, very gently. And of course, you have the smaller brush, which is better. This is kind of a big brush to do it with. How cute the E looks. And then we'll do it on the last E. And I didn't dip for any more color, just one brush load's doing the whole thing. So I said there's so many different ways you can do these things. And I do so many samples and videos and classes that I'm always looking for something different to do on a piece, but you can change it up and do whatever you want. So I'm just going to do that dry brushing on the teal color. See if I can get it around the eye. I'm just going to do the one side of the eye because it's too close on the other side. Okay? All right, so we're getting there. So now, this is the part that will take you a very long time if you choose to do it. Now, you can use the back end of this brush, either brush that you have. This will give you a bigger dot. This will give you a smaller dot. Or you can use a toothpick, okay? A toothpick. I think I gave you a lighter teal also, so you can do some in lighter teal and some in the darker teal, some in the white. Now, these are just random designs, and what you can do is you can take a picture of this with your cell phone. This way you have a picture and that you don't have to sit and watch the video the whole time. But just remember one thing when you're doing dots. They stay wet for a very long time. So if you're right-handed, I would work from the left. This way you're working this way. If you're going to lean on it, you're not going to be smearing the dots. The dots will smear very easily. And then let the dots dry before you draw. Like I have some of them, I have a dot in a darker color, and then I let it dry and put another little lighter dot over it. I'll show you how I did that. So say I did, I need a little bit more of the teal here. Get some of that color out. Okay. So we'll have, well, I can't use the teal. I could use the darker gray. Let's use the darker gray. So say, I'm gonna use the back end of the brush because it'll be a little bit bigger. All right. Now you don't scrape them. You tap it straight down. Okay? Straight down. You put a dot. See that dot I did on that E? Put that there. Bring that back. I'll do a couple of those dots around. And hopefully they'll dry so I can show you what I'm saying about putting another dot inside of it. So now I'm going to take the smaller brush and I'm going to do some white circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do little circles. I do 5 dots. I do 1, 2 at the top. You see what I did there? And then directly underneath it, I do 1, so it's almost like a triangle. And that leaves you the proper amount of space in between to get like a nice circle. Okay? So it's 1, 2, 3, 2 eyes and a mouth, I call it, or a triangle. And then on either side, the right and the left, there's a little bit of space, and that'll make you a perfect flower. And you could do a different color center in it later on. Okay, again, I'm going to show you 1, 2, 1, make them a little bigger so you can see them. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you see that on the V on the bottom? It's 1, 2, 3, like a triangle. And then on in between either side, there's just enough room to put a dot. And then when that's dry, you can go back and in between, I'm using the lighter turquoise color now, and I'm putting a dot in between. Okay, you see what I did on that? A little light turquoise color in between. And I'll put the turquoise color in between there too. You can also use the bigger brush just to do big dots on the piece, like I did over there. Just put a couple of big dots and use them as fillers. You could do circles. You could do curves, like on this one. And each time you put your brush down, if you see the one I did at the top of the V, I did that without dipping a second time, and each dot gets smaller. So you can use that as kind of a design also. So you put dot, 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 dot. Okay, and I did the top of the V, did little dots like that. Now if you want to make a heart, that's another thing that you can do. You can take, I'll come over here now. You could take that triangle again that I showed you. It's 2 dots, and let them touch this time. You see on the E I have them touching. And then what you do is you just pull down with the handle of the brush and you have a heart. All right, I'll do it again. Whoop. Do it again so you can see. All right, so we have 2 dots right next to each other, right there. And then just take the handle of the brush and just pull down. And you have a heart. Okay? Nice and simple. Now you can just use all different colors, whatever you have, whatever you want. The white is very striking. I like the white. I did the brunt of the design on the turquoise colors. And on the gray, I just used the white to accent the lettering. Okay, so you can do that. Or you can do what I did here. You could do whatever you want. If you have other colors, you can play with other colors. And as far as sealing this, the paints are self-sealing. But if you wanted it to have some kind of a shine or a finish, there are paint-on sealers that I believe Michaels may sell. I know Amazon was selling them for a while. Whether they're in stock or not, I don't know. They're paint-on sealers. They're a liquid. You put them on very thin. They have them in matte. They have them in gloss. Or there's spray. There's a Krylon spray. Dunkin' makes a spray. And I heard that Walmart carries a spray that's pretty inexpensive compared to the others. So you can do that also. These things should not be put outside below 32 degrees. Ceramics can go outside, but not below 32 degrees. Okay, so this can be done for a holiday. It could be done for just all year round. And keep telling yourself you believe. We're gonna have a better world. We're gonna have a better world. Get away from this COVID, and everything will be wonderful. So I want to thank all of you for taking this class. I want to wish you a very healthy and happy holiday season and a very happy new year. And take a look at all my other videos that I have up on YouTube. And if you want to see other things also, I'm on Facebook under Rosemary Ceramics. So again, thank you so much, and I appreciate your enjoying ceramics. Bye.